Alrighty, so one of the things that in terms of from a trend perspective that a lot of marketers and even other bloggers have is how do you choose the brands that you work with, you know? So you start off creating content that's organic, things that matter to you, things that you want to share with your readers. But in general, then brands start looking at your blog from a marketing perspective, and you have to make some decisions in terms of what brands resonate with you and how do you make it work. So how do you number one, look at brand opportunities, and then how do you keep sponsored content interesting for your readers? Anybody can take it first.
You want me to start? Okay. So when I work with brands and they approach me for a sponsored campaign or a sponsored post, I look to see if I like the brand, if I've used the brand before, if it's a product, and also how can I share the product with my readers in a personal way. So let's use hair products, for instance. If this is something new that I'm willing to try and it's a brand that I've used before, and I think that it would work well with my daughter or my son or even myself now that we opened up our blog to be more about the whole family and not just the kids, not just parenting, I'll give it a try. I will definitely give my perspective on what I think the product and the brand, how it worked for me. And I'm very honest with my content and with my readers. However, I do not post negative, but I do negative feedback, but I do give feedback to the brand when it comes to things like that. So there are times where a product may not be fitting in the end, but I'm always open to sharing with the brand why it wasn't. So as long as you're honest, I think that's the way it's worked for me.
Hello, I'm Sylvia. First of all, I would like to know how many of you are bloggers? And how many of you that you consider yourself a new blogger? Like you need to learn. Because this is my answer, it has two perspectives. Because, you know, I was there in 2009. And 2 years after I started, when you start monetizing, the company start, you know, contacting you, you have this pressure to say yes to almost everything because, oh, I'm getting noticed, maybe I'm getting paid and all that. So I think that at that point when you are very new, you find yourself very in a hard position to take a decision. Am I going to work with them or not? And maybe, possibly 90% of the time you're going to say yes because you need to start working with a company, right? But now the perspective now, years after, how I decide to work with brands. And I'm going to say also what we said is that I need to check the first out of the, before I say yes to everything, I need to see, okay, is this a brand I could use? This is a brand I'm familiar with. If I'm not familiar with, I need to go and check out what it is about. And then decide if that is gonna be something that I feel comfortable talking about, and my readers are gonna benefit from it. And this is my very first step. And then I go more about how the campaign involves. What is the campaign is gonna ask me to do? It's gonna be like 1,000 tweets, or it's gonna be 2 posts. I need to analyze also my work, my job, how much I'm gonna invest in this. And this is another thing that is important to consider. But what I'm gonna tell you, all the new bloggers, just ask questions. Always ask questions. Send an email, say, I'm interested, but I need to know this, this, and this, and this. Usually it gets a great dialogue, and maybe you think about not working with them, and at the end you end up working with them, because after you ask all these questions, you realize that it's a good fit. So that's the way I do it.
Now, when I go to work with brands, I see how relevant are they going to be to my life, how familiar I am with them. One big thing that I like to look for is how creative can I be with that sponsored post. I'm not really interested in writing about the product or doing a review. I'd rather put my own twist on it. For example, I'm doing a car seat sponsored post, and I've done one before. I'm not interested in really just writing about the car seat. What I did, you know, like 8 tips on what you should know about booster seat safety. And I feel like that's gonna resonate better with my audience. It's gonna do better on Pinterest because people are gonna, maybe they're in that transition of, is my child ready for a booster seat? So they're gonna look at that, they're gonna go to it, they're gonna read tips, and then they're gonna see that I recommended this brand. So I look, how creative can I be with this post? And are they a good fit? Am I familiar with them? Are they easy to work with? That's one thing that I look for, and I can sometimes tell within a pitch, this PR rep may not really be very understanding of my time and my creativity. So I may it might not be the brand, it might be the PR person that turns me off or, gets me excited. So that's how I base things off of.
Great. One thing I wanted to do, I should have done it at the beginning, was each of your Twitter handles in case anyone's sharing the information. Ruby, your...
Sure, my Twitter handle is @RubyDW altogether.
Mine is @Mama Latina.
Mine's @Hot Mama, the letter N, the city.
Okay. And I'm @Those Tweens, so we're good. Alrighty, how do you, this is always a big one. When you start off, typically, as you said, when you're a beginning blogger versus an established blogger, you definitely skew at the beginning of a program, having more organic, less sponsored content because you're creating your voice, right? And I've seen a lot of bloggers, some of the challenges as you get more seasoned, brands want to work with you, it's more difficult to balance that sponsored versus non-sponsored. Is there anything that, and then of course you're given lots of opportunities to do unsponsored, but very message things, right? Because you get information all the time, so it may not be sponsored because it's not paid, but certainly message driven. So how do you balance that? What makes you tick in terms of the content that's non-sponsored, and how do you try to keep a balance in a blog? And I think that's helpful for the newbies in the audience, but also for the established bloggers too.
You want me to start? Sure. So the way I balance it is I like to keep at least an even amount of posts. So if I'm doing 3 sponsored posts that I have deadlines for within a week, then you will also see 3 non-sponsored original contents, original posts from my blog. The way I started my blog, it was more of diary form. It's no longer that way, but I still try to keep the stories the same. So I like to share what my kids are up to, what my husband's doing, how I'm doing as a mom. So you will still find those mixed in with the sponsored post. Also, again, when I do a sponsored post, it's always got to be personal to me. If I can't give you a personal story with it, I can't write about it. I can't share with my readers. My readers know when I'm not being, when it's a forced post, in other words. So
it is always a challenge, especially when the companies start contacting you more and more and decide how many. I mean, you go to the calendar and say, oh my gosh, I had like 2 or 3 each week, right? So this year, what I started doing is that I reduced my sponsored content a lot, starting probably February, and start really looking into my categories and see, okay, what are the categories I'm gonna work? Because you're gonna realize that if you have a blog, you're gonna be in constant change. Your blog now is not gonna be the same probably in 2 years from now. Because your interests change and your kids change and all that. And what I do is that when I realize there's a lot of sponsored posts, but I have really great content that I published like 3 or 4 years ago, sometimes I just revamp that, right? Because what happens is that you're gonna find out this is a full-time job. And when you have a sponsored content, you actually invest even more time in these companies that they're supporting you in some way, financially or with another kind of resources. So you're gonna find out that the time starts getting less and less. So what I do, I revamp great content or a great recipe. So in these ways I can balance while I have time to write more organic content as well. But also when I'm writing and I'm online all the time, if I find something like, okay, this can be great for this category, I'll just get that information in my email. And I know that at some point I can go back and get information and write a post for information that I've been collecting continuously, and that helps me as well.
can I add something to that? Another way I balance is I have an editorial calendar and I give myself 6 months. So if I know something is going to be due 2 months from now, I try to space it out. If I have 5 posts that have to be done, I try to space them out so that I only have 3 a week.
For me, I don't have like an exact formula. I just, because I do a lot of sponsored posts, so I don't want to put that pressure on me like, oh, I need to get out 10 organic, you know. But what I try to do is make my sponsored posts kind of have an organic feel. By maybe including a recipe. When I do like organic posts, I do crafts or recipes. Even though I don't know how to cook, my family doesn't understand why I have a recipe section. They're like, you cook? I'm like, yeah, I can cook a little bit. But yeah, so that's my outlet. Because I think blogging for me is fun because it allows me to use my creative hobby like photography, crafting. When I get to craft a post, I get to photograph it. I get to put it all together. And that for me is my outlet. That's my creative outlet, even if it's sponsored or not. So I don't have an exact formula as far as organic versus sponsored.
Oh, thank you. One of the things that we see a lot in terms of the questions from our brand clients, so well, they're all brand clients, but from our clients, from the client side of the equation in terms of Latina mom bloggers, is the question regarding traffic. So it's who are the bloggers with the highest traffic, who are we selecting in terms of working on the campaign, and the reality is that there's a lot of education that goes on in terms of talking with our clients, because it's not always about who has the highest traffic in terms of if you're going to compare a multicultural blogger to a general market blogger, the numbers are going to be vastly different. The reality is that while those numbers may be lower, their engagement is amazing. So I think that, you know, you look at a Latina blogger post and she'll have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 comments from a traffic, you know, group that may be smaller than in comparison to a general market blogger. What is your strategy in terms of driving engagement with your audiences? So how do you keep it relative? You know, how do you engage with her and talk to her to be driving that what's more important than so much of a traffic number is really how you're connecting with your audience.
So the way I engage with my audience is with the type of content I put out. So I have a very, like Chrissy said, very diverse blog where I hit the mixed culture and the African American and the Mexican Latino community. So when it comes to speaking about my family, I feel moms, stay-at-home moms actually, have a way of wanting to engage and ask me questions. For instance, I just posted something about how the whole way I do my child's hair, my daughter's hair has changed. The products change seasonally, and so moms want to know, what products are you using? And so that triggers me to, oh, I need to do a hair routine, a new hair routine post. And so then they ask me, what products are you using? Not only do I engage on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, but I also create content like Christina said, where it's going to be pinnable on Pinterest, and it's always going to be relevant. People are always going to be looking for content about hair. Hair doesn't change. Hair continues to be the same. So that's how I engage. The conversation starts on its own by a visual, especially now. So Instagram and Pinterest are my best friends.
My blog is fully bilingual, Spanish and English, so I get a very interesting mix of readers. And I'm gonna give you just an example. I'm very passionate about food. I started cooking at 12 years old. I became the cook of the family when I was 13. And when I moved from Mexico, because I was born and raised there, and I just moved to the United States 12 years ago, I want to continue to do the food. So this is a very specific example I have. Like, I have a post in my blog. It's pozole verde, chicken green pozole, and it's like it gets like comments every day from all around the world. But what is interesting is see where the comment comes from. Like, I can really see where the comment comes from Mexico, or a comment comes from somebody in the United States who probably had family in Mexico, and probably this person tried that dish many years ago, and now she wants to make it, right? So it's a great way to interact with them, because they in that post, I mean, I can go back and see and people ask questions. How do you make it? Did you make that one? So they start getting very personal with you. Like, and what did you do with the garlic when after you cook it? You know. So they start getting into this kind of fun conversation. So what I'm sorry, what this post, the information that the post is giving me is a great, great way of information, because then I know what am I really passionate about, what I'm passionate about. And then we create conversation, and that may be a way for me to start creating more content in that route, right? If I'm seeing that these people is coming for this, and they're getting this, their identity, their family, something is touched them, so then I can continue with that conversation. So I think for me then the answer is that found that thing that is you're passionate about, things that is getting conversation, and then work more on that route. And then going to the numbers that you mentioned, it is sometimes very hard, because yes, the Latino bloggers are kind of fairly new, so it's still growing. So we cannot compare our numbers with the general market bloggers yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good.
But we're very particular about the kind of people that is reading us, and sometimes the brand wants to get to that market. So it doesn't matter if you don't have the thousands of numbers, because but you get into the people that the brand wants to reach, right. And that's the importance.
Agree.
So I've noticed the posts that I get a lot of engagement on isn't the ones that I usually ask questions at the end of my post. It's usually like the if I share some sort of tips or recipes, people will add their tip to the comments, or they'll say, oh, thank you, more people should really know about these kind of things, or they shared their personal story. I recently did a sponsored post for RSV, and I did some tips on what you should know. And so I had a few people talk about how important it is to get the word out, because they were mothers of babies who had the RSV. So, and then also the car seat one, also I've had actually a few car seat technicians kind of give their input to as well. And then recipes. People love food, so if you can post a great recipe, easy recipe, great pictures, even if the comment is yum, some people will just leave that comment. I think it's so funny when people just leave a simple comment, yum, and I'm like, okay, so I they get it, so they like it. But yeah, I've noticed that it comes kind of organically. Like if you try to go out and get it, it's not gonna come, but unexpectedly it comes when you don't expect it. So.
We're gonna open the floor in just a minute, so have your questions ready. The last one that I'll post is actually, you touched on it, Christina, so I'm going to open it up a little bit more, but basically, what are the content themes that really resonate, that you have noticed that resonate most with your readers? Is it food? Is it DIY? Like what are you seeing in terms of trends for your own blog that really resonate with your readers?
For me, it's anything I can basically get on Pinterest, which is DIY recipes and tips. That's why whenever I get the opportunity for a sponsored post, I do try to make it what I call Pinterest friendly. So, 10 reasons why you should do this, 5 reasons why, because people are going to be interested in reading this. They don't really care to kind of read a post about some brand or something. They're going to, lead them a different way. They're going to come for one reason and maybe leave with a different reason or a different idea. So that's what works best for me, is recipes, DIY, basically anything that people do in their daily lives. Mm-hmm. And then, many of our readers are moms, anything that involves children, being a mom, cooking, tips, stuff like that.
For me, if I go to my analytics and see where my most views posts from the last 5 years, it's going to be my pozole verde, and it's going to be tres leches cake, and it's going to be chile rellenos, or how to peel chiles, and it has to be how to make whipped cream from scratch. So food. For my blog, but also I have traffic for another. I remember I did a long partnership with LifeLock, which was all about security, personal safety with your kids. And so all that information created a really nice dialogue with my readers as well, because they didn't know about these things, how to protect you, how to protect your kids. So things that are like tips in that also gets good. And like Christina said, also like Pinterest. Pinterest is an amazing thing.
Mhm.
So, great photography, that's what I recommend. And if I see my picture from 5 years ago and I see my picture from last month, I almost pass out when I saw a recipe that and I did. It is so important that your blog looks great. So invest in a good camera and learn. It's not that hard. Yeah.
For me, it's a little different. What my readers come for is how I share my culture with my children and how I combine both cultures. So I do a lot of crafting and now a lot of food since my husband came on board, who's sitting here in front. And so we do a lot of cooking. One of the best ones for Thanksgiving was chorizo cornbread. I mean, who would have thought, right? And it was delicious. Recently we did sweet grits. So I didn't grow up eating grits, but my husband did. I couldn't find myself eating them with butter. So we put lechera on it, sweet condensed milk, and it was heaven on earth, let me tell you. But with crafting, one of the biggest things that gets pinned are my felt boards. I taught my children and myself about Black history, Martin Luther King with felt boards, Ruby Bridges recently with a felt board, and even recently, last year, Cesar Chavez. Who is Cesar Chavez? My children didn't know, my husband didn't know, so it's a fun way to get them engaged, and my readers want to know how do I create this, so I create tutorials and they get pinned, and I mean, the rest is history.
Cool, very cool. Alrighty, so in the audience, any questions out there? Don't be shy. Don't be shy, it's all
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Specifically for Mom. When you, I was just on your blog and I see that a lot of your posts are sponsored. Do you have any feedback from your readers? Like, are they, you know, oh, she's just pushing things, or do they appreciate it? I'm just really curious how they respond.
I haven't heard anything negative. I've been blogging for about 2 years. Every month I get more and more sponsored posts, but yet every month my numbers are growing. So it hasn't been negative for me in any way.
Go ahead, Christine.
For anybody, do you guys belong to different networks where you say, oh, this is my post, can you come and comment here, and then I'll comment into those networks and sites? Do you belong to any of those networks?
I still engage with some, but it's not like it was in the beginning. Like Sits Girls, you mean something like that? Where
there are others, but
yeah, there's different ones where I mean they call it like a support network, you know, and it's great. You get to meet different bloggers and people in your niche. So I think as a beginner, that's definitely a go-to that I would recommend, just so that you get the feel of other blogs and what other people are doing, and how you can relate to their work. But now I'm a little more established, so not as much, but I definitely do still engage in other blogs, so I do comment.
I'm going to add something to that. What I recommend is know your niche and then know the bloggers that they blog something similar to you. Like, for example, for me, I blog a lot about food. So I know a lot of bloggers, a Latina bloggers that blog about food. So when 1 month and 1 day I just create this amazing post, amazing recipe that I think is going to be great, I go to my support system with probably there's 7 or 8 of my friends and I say, hey, could you just please just share this? We don't do that like every day, but if it's something that you think is special and is nice, and if you did spend a lot of time and you would like more people to see it, I go with my support system and I say, just help me with this. And that's how it goes. But something about like doing like commenting like every day and all that, I did a few of that things in the beginning, but then when you start getting so busy, you don't have time to return the favor sometimes. So, because that's the thing, when you ask somebody to help you, you need to give double. Because that's the way you create your community, and that's the way you create your blog friends. So, so I recommend that. Just create your support system.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of small like groups on bloggers on. Can you hear me? Okay. There's a lot of groups on Facebook with blogger communities, and they do a lot of share threads, favorite threads. I really don't participate in that, but I think, you know, it's a great way to learn and grow. Visit other blogs. In the beginning, When I needed ideas on how I wanted to present myself, I would go and look at other blogs. And I would go and I'd kind of be like, okay, if this was my blog, what would I change? You know, what do I like about this blog? Why do I keep coming back to this blog? You know, is there something that turns me off of this blog? So then I would kind of take those ideas and apply them to my blog. Like, well, you know, I like how this blogger represented the brand this way, or I liked how she used her photos in this way. So it's a great way to, you know, go and learn about blogging by visiting other blogs and commenting. And you also build a support system, and you build a community.
Great. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Two of you guys have mentioned Pinterest. Do you guys find that's the social media channel you guys use most to get traffic to your sites?
It is my #1 traffic. #2 is Google. So, and #3 is Twitter.
I just think for me, #1 is organic, #2 is Pinterest. But the funny thing is just it's kind of organic, you know, because you create something and you just share it, right? And then you're amazed which post you start getting like momentum, you know, and just get. I've had one pin there that has like over 2,000 pins. I redo my cabinets in my kitchen in like 24 hours, and it seems to be a very popular one. So sometimes it's good because then when you find those pins that they keep rolling, you just can repaint it, you know, and just give more momentum to it. And I found that I really enjoy Pinterest. I need to have an alarm clock on my phone to say I'm going to spend just 15 times on Pinterest because now I spend all day. Because a lot of people love that so much, and I think it's a great way for you to get your content out and get those links back.
I agree with her as far as Pinterest being organic, because people are only going to pin things that they are interested in and they want to learn about. And it's very easy sometimes for a pin to basically go viral. Within a week, I had one pin that went from 0 to over 8,000 repins within about a week and a half. So, and it was a very simple holiday themed recipe, and I love Pinterest. Like, I love it. So if Pinterest were to be gone tomorrow, I'd probably also disappear too.
Anyone else?
I know we talked about engagement, but I'm curious to know about your numbers, like how many people do you have coming to your blog on a regular basis? Your scale.
Like how many like how many hits do we get? For me, I know many bloggers don't really like to share those things for some reason, but I recently hit almost 22,000 uniques for the last month. A little over 30,000 page views, and most of those do come from Pinterest. And my top posts are recipe posts.
Oh, my numbers are not that high, but my engagement and my uniques are to a certain niche. So that's where Christy says numbers aren't always what brands want. And I'll be the first to say my blog is not one that reaches 22 uniques. It doesn't work that way, and that's not why I started the whole blogging thing. So.
And also you need to analyze different things, because you're gonna have readers that come to you from Facebook, and readers are gonna come to you from Pinterest, and readers are gonna come from you from Twitter. And sometimes some readers come from, you know, they use the 3 social media channels, but sometimes it's different people, and they come to different categories from the blog. Like probably a lot of people come from food, but a lot of people also come to my blog from, like I do a lot of do-it-yourself in your house and painting and all that, and there is also a niche for that. So it is very hard to pinpoint exactly how many, what is your people and how many are from where, because then you have your email, you know, and there is another number. So it's very hard to really, it's more about like in general, like if I get 1 month and I get 30,000 unique, and like I'm jumping up and down, you know? But also it changes, because then you have all this like holiday when you create a lot, so it changes every month depending what you're talking about.
Yeah, I wouldn't measure
on that point, because we've seen some of our bloggers that will have actually some of the lower traffic in terms of page views and uniques and what have you, have some of the highest engagement in their other platforms. So it's there literally is like no real correlation. So it's just a matter of the theme, did it resonate, how much did they share it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that we definitely counsel on. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, because it's not always about the page views or the traffic specifically on the blog, what other, you love Pinterest obviously, Christina, but aside from that, how do you, like what platforms do you use to drive? Perhaps it's not always a blog post, but you create content in other areas, right? Is it a Facebook, like do you ever use a social media channel that's not really a post on your blog? To create interest and drive interest the other way around?
I think the other one that I'm most active on is Twitter. It's so easy, especially if you attach a hashtag to it. Sometimes I'll go in there and I'll look at random hashtags. Yeah, I find a lot of engagement on Twitter as well. Even I never thought Twitter would be good to share recipes, but I start sharing my recipes on Twitter with an image, because people, when it comes to food, they see a photo, you know, that's all that gets them. And so that builds a lot of, conversation on Twitter. More conversation, I think, happens on Twitter for me than it does actually on my blog.
Interesting.
For me, it's Instagram. Because I can, like, for example, being cooking, like, I'm a contributor for Curry Vida and recipes every Monday. So what we start doing this month is also, like, when I'm cooking, like I'm bringing the ingredients or it's half done, I just take pictures and Instagram. So it's not attached to a post itself, but as I'm telling you my story, what I'm doing, you don't see just the recipe, you see what I'm doing in the kitchen before the recipe comes out, you know? So it is a way to create a story, and it goes 1, 2, 3 days, because sometimes it takes me a couple of days, you know? One to the photo, for the last photo, and that's creating some content there without being a post itself. And Instagram is fabulous also to create real organic content, and it's a way that, for me, it gives a more personal perspective about me. Because I don't see, sometimes you don't see much in my blog, because I don't talk about very, very personal stuff in there, but if you see my photos, you see, you know, the way I live and all that, so it's a way for the readers to know you better without being in their faces, you know, it's kind of organic.
Yeah, I think people like to see those steps, like with you, instead of just the finished product, they like to see they're interested. Yeah.
And for me, it's also Instagram. Just recently, we went on a family vacation to explore Black history in Washington, D.C., and people were actually following along with our hashtag #GovExploring. They were very interested. Another one we went on is to California. I consider myself a bi-coastal blogger, originally from California. So just recently, last year, we went on a 3-month vacation to California, and we used the hashtag #GovVacation, and everyone was following, everyone was engaging. We went to Disneyland, we went to LA, we went to San Diego. People want to see what my family, what my kids are up to. And I'm okay with sharing that via pictures.
Any other questions? Yeah, let's go.
So do you think Facebook is relevant at all these days, or how much time do you spend?
I think for personal use, for myself, I still stay in touch with a lot of people that way. But as far as pushing content with all the changes, I've seen a decrease in traffic on my on my fan page. So it's not my #1 go-to to share information anymore.
I love Google Plus for a lot of reasons. I think slowly a lot of bloggers will start making the change there at some point. One of the very great things about Google Plus is that you share your content there and it goes to search engines like in no time, really. Like you can post something and like 15 or 20 minutes later it's already showing in searches. So it's a beautiful thing. However, we need to think also that a lot of people who are in Facebook are not as savvy, social media speaking, that we are, because we are like learning how to do this, but most people in Facebook are just there because their family is there, their friends are there. So even though I think that we bloggers start making the switch, I don't see these people doing it, right? So for me, what I do is I just treat every platform the same. So I still share in Facebook, in Twitter, Pinterest, and Google Plus, right? Even though maybe in the future I want to invest more of my time in Google Plus and create more community there. But I still need to think about these people that are in Facebook and they're going nowhere. So even though probably Facebook is reducing our engagement and our views, I think I still, until we see people leaving, I think it's still important that you use as many social channels that you feel comfortable with. If you feel comfortable with 3 of them, that's fine. If you're comfortable with 2, that's fine. If you want to do like 10, that's fine as well. But I think it's a personal preference. But in my case, I still share in the main 4 or 5.
For me, I do think as a page owner for a blog that Facebook is irrelevant. I really don't focus there. When I started blogging, they started to make their changes around the same time. So it was never something I really cared to put, what I say, all my eggs in one basket. I really don't. I go to Twitter, I go to Pinterest, I go to Instagram. Google Plus is amazing, like she was saying. When you share something on Google Plus, it's going to show up in, it's going to help with your Google organic reach. So, learn, even if people have no idea how to use it, learn how to use it, share your content there. Because I feel like eventually Facebook, they've even said, it's really going to go nowhere for a lot of us who have pages there.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. We're gonna wrap it up. We'll be here for a few minutes if you want to ask our panel some questions. But thanks, everyone, for coming this morning.
Thank you.